Hey everybody, it's Andrea Juhan at Moving In. A lot of people ask me about why I focus on embodied mind or what the mind has to do with dancing. I mean, after all, don't we dance to get out of our heads? Isn't that the primary reason we dance, is so that we don't have to be listening to thoughts? This is an important question and an important subject, and I thought I would address it today. Coming up, we're going to be doing a workshop called Momentum, which is based on embodied mind and how conscious dance can really support our skillful navigation of mind states. So here we go. We're good. All right, Cynthia. That's. Yes. Okay.
You guys had enough?
Yeah.
So originally, I do think that conscious dance did evolve out of a need to mend the mind-body split in some ways. I think we had gotten very conceptual in the 50s and the 60s, and the 70s brought about this kind of freeform dancing that brought so much aliveness and juice to everybody and this sense of relaxing into the body. And it was such a relief, actually, not to have to listen to our thoughts. In the early days, it was really important to get people to just derail off the mind and into the body. But what we found is that the mind does not stop, and that at some point we do need to deal with what is happening in our head, what we're hearing in our head, and what happens when our mind states start to take over our body. And we know so much more now about how the mind and body interact and how they're engaged and interrelated. Rick Hansen has a phrase I quite like called having a body full of mind. I like that. Rather than a mindful body, we have a body full of mind. And that fits my experience. Our body's full of aliveness and thought and imagination and impulse. If we look at mind as information, not just words or thoughts, but the impulses that come before a thought perhaps, or the feelings that come before they even formulate into verbal thoughts, the body is full of mind. And a lot of times we're just not listening. Neuroscience has been showing us again and again and again that the brain is a relational organ. The brain is plastic, it's shapeable, and it's shaped by our experiences in life. It's shaped by use or the absence of use. It's shaped by relations or the absence of relationship. Hey honey, don't you have to go get Leon?
Oh yeah, okay. Hey, Jordy! What happened this summer?
I know.
Oh, man. I just talked to him.
You did?
Hey, Henry!
I will. There we go.
Yeah.
The brain is malleable, and it's that way throughout our entire life. And the brain and the mind states it generates is engageable. I think a lot of us just think that whatever's happening in our head is just kind of tough luck. We just have to manage.
Super fast on the road. All right. I guess you're used to it, huh?
I'm used to it, yeah. Although sometimes someone is coming up the other way. And I'm like, okay.
In movement work, we really are finding that you can affect quite concretely and quite immediately how your mind is perceiving your world by how you move and how you breathe. Most of us know that because we would take a walk perhaps and our mind state would change, or if we settle down our bodies, we might quiet the mind. In open floor, we're taking this basic tendency to be able to affect a mind state through movement to a high art form, really. Is if I can affect my mind state by how I move, then how many mind states can I affect? And it turns out that we can affect almost all mind states by how we move, because again, the body is full of mind. It's constantly washing with hormones and its sensations and impulses and firings that affect what we hear in our head.
Rather than trying to get out of your head to get into your dance,
Thoughts have movement. And if a particular thought pattern has a lot of movement and a lot of thoughts all in the same track,
It's way fun.
like the kinds of thoughts that might push us forward, like I have to get this done, or I really want to complete this so that I can feel better about this, or I want to, if I don't do this, something bad will happen. And so just the kind of thoughts that might push us forward, and you just get a bunch of those going along, you might be pushed forward, but they also create perhaps a bit of tension.
let's really go that way.
Well, I'm thinking about like, what am I doing on this dock? Doing a filming thing with Vic when I've got a training about to start, and I've got all kinds of things that I need to be organizing and getting in place because we're having our team meeting first, and then we're going into training, and so I'm a little bit conflicted about being here and where I really should be over down there in my little garage getting all the paperwork ready for the training.
All right.
In embodied mind work, what we're doing is we're kind of flipping that experience. What if we look at behavior? What if we look at the movement, the general movement of where our thoughts are going, and start to play with that and see, what kind of choices can I make in there? If it's not just automatic, if it's just not part of my nature, what kind of skillful navigation can I create through the movements of my body that would affect my mind state? And it turns out that actually we have a lot of choice. We have a lot of room to play there.
She's so maneuverable on it. Looks like the people are here. Hey! Nice job. Very tricky.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I was like, this is beautiful. Hey. Oh my god. I feel like wet super.
Whoa. Hey, it's raining.
Sunny Hi, sweetie. Welcome.
Good, yeah.
Thank you.
Got a rain jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
One of the premises of Open Floor is that movement is a resource. It's a resource for our well-being. It's a resource for emotional intelligence. It's a resource for a clarity and balance and harmonious mind state. Mind is movement. Thoughts are movement. So if they move one way, they can move another way. We can create movement that's a resource for the kinds of mind states we'd like to engage in off the dance floor. With skill, with attention, and with creativity and joy and others, we can create that together.
Oh, the town is jumping.
Do I need to get anything? Am I getting anything?
No, we were going to take this thing home, but then we had errands to do now. And get out of the house.
We don't need a whole lot.
We need coffee.
Just those coffee filters.
Yeah, that's how we do it in New Zealand, mate. Pick up all the items you want, all the healthy items for movement.
Mm-hmm.
Principally, I find that corn chips,
help you move.
tomato.
Uh-huh.
I'm a bit of an egg fan myself. So are my vegan friends, but
Are you?
they are free range, but I love some eggs personally.
At the coffee shop.
Guilty. This is a organic soy, ginger, grass-fed, wholesome. Yeah.
But he's sneaking in little potato chips every now and then. Just to kind of make it so it's not too healthy.
Gotta balance. Everything's about balance in life.
Right.
Trendy little cafe though.
And they know you. She's like, oh, are you George? I'm like, I am. I think the mind gets a bad rap in the community that I live in. It's like, oh, let go of the mind and come into the heart. Or the body's pretty well established. We've got a lot of that going on. But definitely the mind is a little bit like leave the mind at the door and just get, and through open floor I'm definitely finding the value of bringing in the mind, including the mind and all levels of embodiment, of course. And I just thought Andrea could do a great job of delivering that well to invite, not only invite it, but excite people about it. It's like, oh, this is actually a great, because nobody stops thinking anyway. Nobody can leave their mind at the door. Nobody stops what's going on in their mind. So if it's
my experience of dancing and my experience of engaging with others on and off the dance floor changed completely when I realized, oh, all of that is a dance. I can move to that as equally as I can move to music. So if I'm in one mind state I know really well is I'm kind of whiny and I'm not really happy and something's not right, and then it has this movement, it kind of goes back and forth and la la la, rah, rah, rah. I can start to play with it. And la la la, rah, rah, rah. I can start to find its little momentum and la la la, rah, rah, rah. And then somewhere in that dance I can start to shift it and change it and play. There's such a, to even have the minds that we have is such a gift. To be able to play with it is really the icing on the cake. We need our minds. Getting out of our heads is not a great idea. Being in our heads in a way that works for us is a good idea.
Hi, Andrea.
Morning.
Good morning. We're gonna do it. I'm so glad we're getting to do this. We're waiting all week.
Longer than that, right? Right.
You know what? It's really dark because the light's behind you.
Oh.
Let's switch.
Okay, got it. Not enough to say hello.
Oh, that's good. Ding. So, Andrea Juhan, I have had the pleasure and privilege of working with you for this last week on the open floor training, and I'm super delighted, excited that you're coming to Byron Bay, to my community, to offer the Momentum workshop. And I just wanted to ask you a little bit about it. What can my dancers expect? What are you going to offer them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Wow, okay. Hi. Hi, movers of Byron. I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a pleasure to be with you too, Leon. Momentum is a workshop that I've been working with for almost 15 years, and what it's about is embodied mind. And here's if I were to just like pull it up in one sentence, working with the embodied mind is like discovering you have an extra room in your house filled with treasures. We decades ago, perhaps even last week, we were told that the body was not a place to go, it's sinful, it's not okay. And that kind of got flipped, and now the mind is a problem, we get lost in our head. And true enough, we can get lost in our head, but there's so many creative aspects to what the mind does, not just the brain. I mean, we know from neuroscience now that the brain and mind is a body organ. Not even just my body, it's our body, right? It's a multi-body process, and there's so many incredible experiences that we can ground and make use of that just go flitting by. There's things in our head that we would prefer not to hear, and yet there's things in our dance that we could prefer not to hear. Okay, so what can you expect? Well, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, we never know
I don't know really what's happening inside of you, but I think what you can expect is to have fun, because you just can't predict. You really can't predict how, if you give yourself that permission to go into that room, what treasures are there for you, what choices you can make. If you really have all these choices, what choices can you make? Do you choose to access the part of your mind that has amazing wisdom? Do you find that the images in your mind are rich? Some people are so visual, have these amazing images. Some people start getting all these great ideas about this, that, or the others. Some start to reflect back, understanding. Aha, those aha moments. Even that, right? Aha has movement, And if we really embrace the fact that body-mind is a complete whole system, all of those resources, all of those treasures are dance. They're art. They're, yeah. I could go on, and hopefully I will. I'm going to see you guys. I'm going to be there soon.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We'll see you soon in Byron.
Yeah. Okay.